Welcome to the Word for 2021. Today we're in Deuteronomy chapter 24. As you're reading this chapter, you will find in verse 8 these words: "In cases of leprous diseases, be very careful to do exactly as the priests who are Levites instruct you. You must follow carefully what I commanded them." Leprosy was a skin disease that was incurable. There was no cure except for the hand of God. In Matthew chapter 8, the first 4 verses, we read about a leper that came to Jesus. Now there was a great crowd around Jesus, and this leper, he didn't do what he was supposed to have done. He didn't cry out, "Unclean, unclean." He knew that his only hope for healing was Jesus, and so he kept quiet. Maybe he was wondering, will God even listen to me in the midst of all these people? But he found himself face to face with Jesus. And then in verse 2, he said to Jesus, "If you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus replied, "I am willing, be clean." And at that very moment, he was healed of his leprosy, an incurable disease, but God had healed him. But then in verse 4, Jesus said, "Now do not tell anyone, but go and show yourself to the priest and offer the sacrifice that Moses had commanded." In Leviticus chapter 14, we read about the exact process that the priests were to go through when someone was healed of leprosy. Now again, leprosy was a disease that was incurable except for the hand of God. And here in Matthew chapter 8, this leper was healed by Jesus. And so he was going to give a testimony that God had healed him, that Jesus had healed him. So, when we read Leviticus chapter 14, this was the process that the priest was supposed to do. Go outside the camp and examine that leper to make sure that he truly was clean. If he was, then he was to take 2 birds, cedar wood, a scarlet yarn, and hyssop. He was to take the bird first, and he was to put it into an earthen vessel, pour water over that bird until it died. Then the live bird was to be dipped in the blood of the bird that was sacrificed. And then the bird that was covered in blood was set free as a testimony that this leper had been cured and was able to come back into fellowship with the community. Everywhere in the Old Testament, we see Jesus. And even in this process, we see Jesus. Let me talk to you about that. First, Jesus was crucified outside the camp so that healing might come. The 2 birds, one was sacrificed and one was set free. The priest was to take cedar wood. The cross was probably made of cedar wood because it could be used over and over again, and only cedar wood can stay in the ground and not decay and be used again and again and again. And then you had the scarlet yarn. We read in John chapter 19, verse 28, that a scarlet robe was put on Jesus. In Matthew chapter 27, verse 28, hyssop was used. Vinegar wine was lifted up to Jesus on a hyssop plant. Then that bird that was drowned. When we think of baptism, what does baptism mean? It's a symbol that one had died and rose again, that you're dying to sin and you're alive to God. Jesus died for our sin and he came alive once more. When we give control of our lives over to God, we die to ourselves and we're alive to him. And so that public testimony of baptism is that we are saying that we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and likewise we are dying to ourselves and we're alive in him. And then that sacrificed bird, its blood was shed. The live bird was dipped in the blood and then set free. We are free because of the blood of Jesus. It's only through the blood of Jesus are we forgiven of our sin. Jesus took our place and he shed his blood. We are covered in the blood of Jesus, and that is what frees us. So we all suffer from that which is humanly incurable, that is sin. Like leprosy, sin, it starts small, but then it takes over your life. Like leprosy, sin separates us from God. It separates us from our family and from others. Just like leprosy, our only hope is in God. It's only by God's grace that we are forgiven and we are healed. And like the process of the 2 birds, the offering of leprosy, Jesus' blood was shed and we are covered and we are set free in the blood of Jesus. I love what the word says. Who the Son sets free is free indeed. It's all about Jesus. Thank you for joining the Word for 2021.